Hi there and welcome to another episode of the Gazette's weekly Hockey Inside Out show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette and I'm joined by my regular partners here, former Canadiens teammates and 1986 Stanley Cup champs, Chris Nilan and Rick Green. Well guys, the Canadiens lost 7-5 in San Jose Tuesday night and have a 1-1-1 record in their first three games after the Olympic break. They were holding the first wildcard playoff spot in the Eastern Conference after losing to the Sharks. Knuckles, what do you take away from that wild and crazy game in San Jose?
Yeah, there were lapses certainly in their defensive play, sometimes kind of standing around neutral zone on that Celebrini goal. I mean, he goes between Slafkovsky and Kapanen, right? Like, no one got in his way. It's like they were reaching. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to take his body. And listen, the kid's shifty, I get it, but, they seem to relax in the neutral zone on that goal. They had ample opportunity to put the game at 3-1. They didn't, right? And then the power play in the second period, Caulfield's two glorious opportunities that could have changed it somewhat. But, you're in those tight games. And I give them credit for battling back. But, you're not going to win games like that in the playoffs. It's going to be totally different than that. It's not going to be 7-5. It's not going to be 5-5. It's not going to be 5-2 and you're going to roar back every time. You're not. So, again, one of the things that has plagued them is being able to keep the puck out of their net. And that's going to have to get fixed before playoff time. They got two big games coming up here back-to-back, Friday, Saturday. And if they don't succeed in these games, they're going to be out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Rick, impressive that they came back to tie it in the third period, but they just can't seem to hold on to a lead or a tie.
Well, the details of the game, again, are so critical. They were over the, most of the season. Now with 22 games left, details as in turnovers, one-on-one battles, not getting caught out of position, making sure you're understanding where you should be and where you shouldn't be. And right now, and also let's bring in the fact that they were getting timely saves before. They were getting Dobish or Monty able to make that save when there are some breakdowns, and that wasn't happening. And San Jose, played a pretty good game. Montreal did their best, but they're going to have to clean up some of those areas, especially defensively. And I thought that we've talked about it before. They struggle a little bit on containment when teams cycle. You get guys pulled out of position, then you have breakdowns, and you give up grade A scoring chances. So there's a lot of the details that they're going to have to identify that are not going as well as they should be going, and make sure that they fix them up, because as we see in the standings, there's no room for losses at this point, and they're going to have a big challenge down the stretch.
You talk about details, Rick. Costly, too many men on the ice penalty in the third period. San Jose scores the winning goal on that power play. You've been a coach, you've been a player. Is that more on the coach, more on the player? How do you break those things down?
I mean, it does happen. I remember a number of times, guys were jumping over a little bit early, and I had to basically reach and grab them and pull them back to the bench. I mean, you get tied up with the excitement and the moment, and sometimes you have a little bit of brain cramp, and when the puck goes to those areas where your change is happening, sometimes it hits you, sometimes you luck out. But it's a combination of just being aware, where the puck is, and making sure that you don't jump over early, you don't touch the puck when you shouldn't be touching it. But those are some of the areas that you have to fix up and make sure that they don't come back, because obviously it'll haunt them, down the stretch.
Knuckles, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just comment on that. Don't be looking at the iPads. And I don't put it on the coach. Usually, he lets everybody know who's up. I always put it on the guy on the bench, because you're the one who's going to be too many men in the ice. You have to really be sure that guy is coming before you go. That's it, bottom line. So it's the guy on the bench for me. And I'm sure those players knew who was up. They screwed up. They screwed up.
Well, trade deadline's coming up at 3 p.m. Friday, Knuckles. Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton are both on this California road trip, which to me is a sign they're not planning maybe to do much, because in previous years when the team's been on the road, they've stayed behind here. If they don't do anything before the trade deadline, Knuckles, should Canadiens fans be disappointed, upset? What should the reaction be?
Listen, it doesn't matter if they're on the road or they're home to the trade deadline. He has a phone. Everybody has his number. I don't think that's a big deal. If they don't do anything, I don't have a problem with it, because again, they're going to pay too much to get the Robert Thomas talk. There's Rutherland talk. There's this one. That. Listen, if you're going to give up too much to get one of those players, I think they got to stick to what they have. And I don't think, even if they make the playoffs, they can have some success, but they're not built for the playoffs. They're not built to win in the playoffs. I don't think they have their game where they need it to be for the playoffs. We're just talking about defensive play, which has been a struggle for them. Look at when the Canadiens went to the final. What they have? Awesome goaltending and big defensemen. They don't have that. Overall, they don't. Carrier's small. Hudson, and Mike Masson, I love him. He not overly physical, but he's an effective player. I'm talking about big guys who are physical. If you could complement, and Gooley's got size, I get it, he plays physical, but, one or two more, and they don't use Abba. So, or Struble, he seemed like he struggled a little bit.
Dobson's big, but not physical either.
Yeah, it's really difficult. So those are some of the wish list, I think, things, and obviously a forward who can play physical. They need to. Josh Anderson, big guy. He's the one who's kind of running around and playing that physical game, but they could use more grit.
No, Nick Suzuki said the other day that he doesn't expect them to do much just because they're tight up against the salary cap. Also, I mean, Patrick Laine's still around. We're going to try and move him if they can. But what do you think if they don't do anything moving forward?
I think it's a tough call, because they've had some success, obviously, for most of the year, and they've got some great chemistry happening, and their record speaks for themselves. And I think you have to really be careful before you bring somebody in to change the look or the feel of their dressing room. Not to say that those type of moves don't help your hockey club, but it has to be a good one. I'm sure that there's conversations going on that this guy might be available and what would it take. But I think overall they should be pretty happy with where they're at with the group that they have. They're very tight-knit. They're a real good family, if you will. And, it'd be interesting to see if something came up that would make them maybe a little bit better. And you guys talked about size, maybe a big gritty guy up front, maybe a little more size back there on the blue line. With some grit too, because as we know, the playoffs is a whole different season. So I'd like to be a little fly on the wall to hear some of the phone calls and some of the discussions that are being had on what they should and what they shouldn't do. But I think overall, they have to be happy with the overall performance of each and every guy that they've had to date. And that's a good thing going into the final stretch.
Well, Gordon and Hughes have been patient since they started this rebuild, Knuckles. If they could use a big right shot defenseman, I think, physical, obviously, and they could use a big forward, somebody to maybe play with Suzuki and Crawford. If you had to pick one of those two, Knuckles, which would it be?
Well, where it doesn't look like they're going to use Abba, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Struble, they don't play much when they play. So, and they have good forwards. I would go with that. A guy like Rich Lane, he's physical. He's in your face. He can play. He's a right shot. Hello. So that would be a guy, if you could get him, at a fair price, I'd consider doing. But again, you're not always going to, because you make a move at the deadline doesn't mean, okay, now we're all set. We're going to be ready for the playoffs. It's more than that. But it would be another piece that down the road, if they could afford that, if they can unload, at least half of Laine's contract and Laine, then that's a possibility. But, I'd say that D-man.
Rick, I'm guessing you're going to go with the D-man too?
Well, yeah, I would, like I said, I'd like to see them get a little bit bigger because I know that, Lane is smart and quick and how well he plays the game. He's going to come up to some situations that he's not going to be really happy with when he's got to peel his face off the glass, a number of nights. And it's always critical to have some guys can withstand the grueling schedule of the playoffs. But to get something, you have to give up something. So I think they have to really have a serious look on their future, which they've done a great job on securing the guys that they think are going to be with the organization for a long time. And then if they can, tweak their personnel a little bit to find maybe that missing ingredient of a little bit more grit up front would be nice to act as a catalyst and get some momentum switches going at this critical time.
Knuckles, Rick talks about, you got to give up something. When you talk about untouchables in the organization, I guess, Jacob Fowler is probably the top of that group. You got Michael Hage, you got David Reinbacher, you got the Russian kid Alexander Zarovsky. Would you say those guys are all untouchable, or is there anybody else you think that's untouchable?
Yeah, I don't know if they want to mess with a lot of that because those players, and looking at the salary cap moving forward, those are good young players that you're going to have cheap for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And sure, they still have to prove themselves, but
and they're going to have to sign Demidov at some point too to big money.
Yeah. So you gotta put that in the equation, which isn't easy. So it's a little bit of a chess game at times, but yeah, no one's untouchable. I don't care. No one's untouchable, but I just think these two guys, Gorton and Hughes, really have a plan and they want to stick to it. And if there's something that makes sense to them that can help this hockey team, they're going to do it. So, we'll see, but no one's untouchable.
Rick, you've been on the trade deadline coming up. You've been on the side as a player and as a coach. What's this week leading up to the deadline like in the locker room for guys?
It's always a little bit unsettling, but it's part of the business. And sometimes, you get rumblings of certain guys that you think might be traded to your team, but until it actually happens, you never know. But it's unsettling. There's things that play on the guys' minds when their possible names are being mentioned, and they're happy when it's done because now they're settled in. This is our group. Now let's really pull together and make things happen.
I was speaking with Mike Matheson last week, Knuckles, and he was saying how important it was for him to get that no trade clause into his new contract for the first 3 years, so his family's settled and doesn't say I don't have to move my kids. Trade deadline days for you back when you were playing, what was it like for you? Was there any times that you were worried you were going to be gone, or just the feeling in the room?
No, I never worried about it, to be honest with you. I thought I was pretty solid. Mine happened before trade deadline.
Mm-hmm. So
because of my great relationship with Puddinghead.
Well, the goaltending situation, Knuckles. I mean, Dobish hadn't lost a regulation time game since December. He'd been 9-0-2 before the game against San Jose. He let in a bad one between his legs there against the Sharks. If the playoffs were to start tomorrow, are you comfortable with this goaltending situation?
Not really, but I like Dobish. Listen, it wasn't all on him last night. That was a banana, the Celebrini goal, 5-hole. But he made some good stops early to keep him in the game. And I get you need those timely saves, but again, that was a banana. But a lot of the other goals, I can't really, those are good plays. Like, make good plays against him. And there were turnovers and there were missed assignments. And the goalie isn't always going to be able to make those crazy acrobatic saves. It's just, you hope he can. So, yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable with it, but I don't think they're in a position to even think about getting a goalie. They're going to live with what they have. And, depending on what happens here down the stretch and how Fowler is doing down in the American League, he could always be an option. But Yeah, yeah.
What do you think, Rick, with the goaltending? And could you see them maybe calling Jacob Fowler back up again?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I have a little concern. I mean, these guys know, and we all know that that position is the toughest one. And now you're going to get in a situation where you have to be the best player each and every night. And I'm not sure whether or not these guys are going to be able to handle that. It would be nice and easy to say to find a veteran guy that can maybe stabilize the group in the event that they do not perform the way they should be. But hey, look at you got to see what you've got with the guys that are able to handle pressure situations and get the job done. And we've seen a number of times, whether it's Fowler and Dobish and even Montembeault, get themselves in a pretty good situation where they're making things happen. And my gut feeling is they're probably going to go with that. Let these guys get an exposure to what it's all about and see what they can do and see how they handle themselves.
What did you think about watching that kid Celebrini, Rick?
What a joy to watch this kid, perform. He's just one of those guys that come around once in a while with a skill set and intelligence, and I guess he's quite a character too. He's just a great kid, and he's always smiling, and he's always delivering each and every game. And what a bonus to have a guy like that on your team.
Yeah, it looks like he's having a lot of fun. Knuckles, you mentioned one guy who's not having a lot of fun these days. You mentioned him earlier, Xhekaj. Healthy scratch the last 2 games. I spoke with him last week about, he's a restricted free agent this summer. He says he's trying not to think about his future. He loves playing in Montreal. He wants to stay here. He loves the guys. Do you think he has a future beyond this season with the Canadiens, Knuckles?
It's real. The writing to me is on the wall. I would love to see him be here. I wish, God, I don't know about how they're working with him or what they're doing with him. And, I'm sure they said they tried everything with him, but some of the foot speed stuff, I think he can work on the crossovers down low, being able to react and snuff plays out down low. He's a big man, and he needs to develop. And I don't think he's being able to develop with, 5, 6, 7 minutes of ice time a game and no confidence. That's a tough thing. So, I would love to see him stay here because I have a soft spot for him. You know that. And I'd like to see him be able to develop into a guy here who can help this team. But honestly, when I'm honest with myself, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, you've worked with a lot of young defensemen, Rick, as an assistant coach, and it certainly looks at this point, as Knuckles said, for Arbor, it might be best for his career to go somewhere else where he can play. It's got to be tough playing 7, 8 minutes a game, then a healthy scratch for a couple of games, playing with the fear that if I make a mistake, I'm sitting out again.
To me, it's not the way to develop and bring confidence to a guy that is an important part of your hockey club. And Xhekaj is an important part. Here's a guy that, they're playing with his confidence level by doing what they're doing. And I don't know if this is the best way to get his game where it should be. He's a big body. He's a physical presence, as we know. He's a guy that should be killing penalties. He's going to keep the opposition aware when he's on the ice. And give him a chance to get out there and play in some situations and get his game back so that he can be really effective. And he just doesn't. He's not given the opportunity to do that. And I think the result is he's not developing at the pace that they were hoping for. And I don't care who you are, you've got to play in all kinds of situations to get better. And he's a kid with his heart in the right place. He needs to play. He can be a big part of this hockey club, especially when you're into crunch situations and more importantly in playoffs.
Yeah, it's got to be a tough situation because he wants to stay here and he wants to play, and it just doesn't look moving forward. And you got Adam Engstrom coming up, you got Reinbacher coming up. It's only get harder for him, I think, to get ice time moving forward. Anyway, that's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll have 3 bonus episodes coming up over the next few days, so you can look for those. The Canadiens are back in action Friday night in Anaheim against the Ducks at a 9 p.m. start, and then wrap up their California road trip Saturday, 7 p.m. start in LA against the Kings. In case you didn't know, Hockey Inside Out is also available now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. We'll also be back with a new Hockey Inside Out show next Wednesday, and we'll talk all about what did or didn't happen at the NHL trade deadline.